Namaste and good evening. I am Dak. I'm the founder of Blub World magazine. Blub as a magazine works on a simple focus of finding teenagers who are doing amazing work in their life and sharing their inspiration with other teens. To put it in one single statement, it's teens inspiring teens. Till date, we have covered nearly 300 such teenagers from across the world, and from time to time, we're sharing their stories with other teens across 1,500 schools across India and nearly 5,000 plus institutions across the world. So, Blub has a division which is typically focused on research, and where we try to create industry white papers focused on K-12 education sector, which is simply schools. And since this lockdown began, it turned out to be an opportunity, a blessing, a bane. It typically took a lot of roles for the education sector. So we utilize this time to create a platform where we are trying to collect and create repositories of innovations and ideas and perceptions and opinions on school education and the way it has evolved and it will evolve in the coming times. So I'm very happy to welcome all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 58th episode. In the last 57 episodes, we have had participation of more than 600 school leaders from across 70 to 80 geographies from around the world. And they share their thoughts and ideas and innovations on school education. So today, in the coming 30-40 minutes, we'll be listening to you and trying to understand how do you think that evolution is happening all around you. Every section of the society contributes to society with its own capabilities, its own understandings, perceptions. And as education and as educationists, it's right now our responsibility to teach and keep the anxiety levels of the students low and at bay. But at the same time, there's a new responsibility that has come into play, which is to create the knowledge that the world would need in the coming times. Because all of us right now are actually writing history. Because abhi aap log jo observe kar rahe hain, jo apne aas-paas dekh rahe hain within your ecosystems, that's actually going to become the base for innovation in the coming times. So I hope you're observing well, you're taking a look on every small little big change that's happening around you, within your schools, within your ecosystems, and even beyond. We've observed and had some amazing thoughts and ideas come in from these many school leaders. Jisme se we created the first white paper, which has already been published, where we selected 100 ideas of 100 school leaders. And these ideas are available on all our social media, on our magazine, for others to experiment. कि उनमें से आप लोगों को अगर कोई ideas पसंद आ जाए अपने school में, please try to implement. So before we start, I just give a reference of some of those ideas. One of the schools in Singapore started an activity that they call the Teachers' Tea Party, where every day morning at 7:30, they have all their teachers on a single Zoom call with their teacup in their hand, and they talk about any 3 practices that will keep their teachers happy and eased out and stress-free during their whole work day. And they have done this every day since the stringent regulations came onto education across the world. There is one school in Odisha. They started an activity called Wisdom Diary. They told their students to write a diary every day where they list the good and the bad that they do during the whole day. So that when he comes back to school, they know that where has his wisdom reached. There's one school in a small village in West Bengal. They did not have internet. So they gave a very innovative assignment. They told their kids to create a custom dictionary at home, add 5 new words to it every day, and bring the dictionary to school once you're back. So a lot of innovations have happened across schools. But today we are here to discuss something that we've already used, that we have been using and right now are getting into practice of using it, is technology, and technology that is meant for education. So the simple question and the topic for today is tech really teaching? Or how is technology changing teaching? Or how do you think, will it change teaching in the coming times? So I hope you enjoy the next 30-40 minutes and we get to hear a lot of amazing thoughts from you. I would now request Mehzu Javed, former principal, SDMES Boys English Medium School, Surat, Gujarat. Ma'am, please start. The next 2 minutes are yours. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. This is Mehzu Javed. I'm a former principal from SDMES Boys English Medium School. Actually, due to the COVID and the ongoing pandemic, we were all actually locked down in the houses. Our children are also locked down, and it is a big challenge for our students to work. It is actually a big challenge for the teachers and the education system to work out. We are facing, but I think, according to me, everything has a silver lining, and so has the technology worked with us. Teachers are being zealous. Every morning they are, I mean, every morning they are giving up pre-recorded videos and of the particular subjects, and these subjects are very important for the children. The few learners, they like a particular subject, but most of the learners can enjoy the subjects because teachers are using technology. Animated videos, cartoon videos of the chapter makes it more interesting. So I think technology is better in a way. Sometimes it also helps learners to record it, and the programs that are recorded again and again, they can be watched out by children. They can watch out it, and then the next day the teacher will have a self-learning or a revision session. So children will always have a time to talk to their children, to talk to the teacher and have an interrogative session. But sometimes I think teachers cannot work out with these sessions because the personal touch is missing. And as we can see, there is the other side of the technology, and that is the human touch, the caring, the loving, the sharing, the feeling of being together, the classroom activities, the personal interaction with the teacher, the co-learning activities, the physical education period, the drawing period. I think these are missing. And so formal education with the teachers is more better because it teaches them to be learning, winning, losing, and moving ahead in life and making their goals more clear, enjoying their life, and become more passionate winners. And of course, they should have their life, their enjoyment, and that's more better in a school with the teachers and their friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madhavi ma'am. To again summarize what all she said, recorded videos are being extensively used in a lot of schools right now. Technology is making learning more interesting for children, and personal is absolutely missing. We're all looking out that how would it resume. But we also need to think on these lines that once these schools open, at that point, the school would need a redefinition because you'll just have 30% kids coming in because that's the occupancy of a class that you're expected to have. Teachers will be wearing their masks, so expressions and gestures won't be working very well. The typical personality impact that the teacher had on the student will be a little bit missing because the student would have, become a part of being learning through a practice of one-to-one, because online is one-to-one and coming back to class is one-to-many. So will that format change be easily digested by him? There are a lot of new challenges that will come into play. Let's now hear it from Mr. Bhavesh Dinesh, sir, Principal, Podar International School, Thane, Maharashtra. Bhavesh, sir, over to you. You can unmute your audio.
Good evening to one and all. First of all, I would like to thank Daksh for giving this opportunity to be a wonderful web talk. The COVID-19 pandemic and subsequently lockdown have not only cast a grave shadow on the lives of people, but also brought the education sector to a temporary standstill. I would not conclude or say anything at the beginning of my conversation, but definitely will give my answer. Is tech really teaching? Um, Before I begin, I want to give you one example which I want to relate with today's situation. Imagine if we are in a dark, and we stay in a dark for a longer period of time, and suddenly somebody switch on all the lights, and that particular moment it becomes very difficult for all of us to adjust, so that phase is a testing time, and that is a time where we have to adjust ourselves. And as we go ahead, after some time we get used to of this. So we are also facing the same we are also in the same situation at this moment. All of a sudden the real classroom teaching has gone off, and all of a sudden we have switched on to the virtual learning platform. So it's very difficult for people to digest, and there are many questions whether it is effective, whether it is working well or not. So uh, the data speaks about its success. Before March 15 lockdown, only 3% of people they were online, and now today it's 100%. So it itself talks about the success of the technology. Online classroom, online teaching is good alternative. It is a very temporary arrangement made by us. Now you just cannot compare your online classroom teaching with the real classroom teaching, because there are many parameters which will be missing, because every technology, everything has its own limitation and its own advantages. I would like to give you one example. Suppose in a case of electricity failure, what we do, we have an inverter in our place. So what does the inverter does? It helps you to at least run your fan and makes you little comfortable. But if you're expecting that inverter, your AC should work on inverter, then I think it's the wrong expectation. So same ways, the online classes, like we cannot expect much from online classes, but definitely in the future, keeping looking at this scenario, the blend of online classes and the real classroom teaching will make education more effective. So just to talk about the innovative ideas what we have done. So at Podar we are very professional. We have our own team who train teachers, who prepare resources, makes life very easy. We send tutorials. So most of the time it's a self learning for students also. So what we have done in our school, especially at higher classes, we have given students opportunity to host the class. So it's the students who coordinate with the other students and the teacher, and he sends the details. Some of the other kids are given responsibility of revising a lesson. So I think so. My answer is with this conversation. Yes, um, yes, it is working well, and it is going very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavesh sir. To again summarize on what all points you touched, education at the moment is actually at a temporary standstill, and we are all looking at how to actually work it again. Because ये बात सही है कि इन्वर्टर पे एसी नहीं चल पाएगा, एंड हम लोग अभी जिस टेम्पररी मेक शिफ्ट अरेंजमेंट पे सब कुछ करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उसमें बहुत सारे साइड इफेक्ट साथ में खड़े होते जा रहे हैं। एक बहुत बड़ा साइड इफेक्ट ये है कि बच्चों में बहुत मेजर फिटिंग आना चालू हो गया ऑनलाइन क्लासेस में। एंड ऑनलाइन भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो डिजिटल प्रैंक्स बढ़ गए हैं रादर देन टीचिंग। बच्चे उस प्लेटफॉर्म को अपने अपने हिसाब और तरीके से इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। सो डेटा एट द मोमेंट इज एब्सोल्युटली प्रेजिंग एडटेक, ये बात हकीकत है, बिकॉज सब जने एडटेक पे ही हैं। एंड ऑनलाइन क्लासेस कंप्लीट स्पेक्ट्रम नहीं है, सेल्फ लर्निंग इज इंपॉर्टेंट. And one very nice innovation that students right now are hosting the classes, अच्छा है, because students are the ones who are leading all of us in tech, so let them handle the tech. It's always good. And education का एक typical paradox है underlying जो हमेशा से होता है कि आप अपनी पिछली जनरेशन से पढ़ते हैं, आप एक खुद जनरेशन होते हैं और अपने से अगली वाले को पढ़ाते हैं, तो टिपिकली 2 जनरेशन का गैप आप पैच करने की कोशिश कर रहे होते हैं. एंड जब ये इतना बड़ा टेक वेव आ गया है तो वो एकदम से ऑब्वियस हो गया है कि भाई एक ऐसा हमारे पास अब काम हो गया है जो काम एक्चुअली हमारे बस का नहीं था, एंड वी आर ऑल ट्राइंग टू लर्न. बट यस, इस पे स्कूल्स ने बहुत अच्छे से रिस्पॉन्ड किया है, एंड टेक्नोलॉजी राइट नाउ हैज व्हाट वी कैन से हैज बीन एम्बाइब्ड. अब वो डीएनए में एम्बेड हो गई हमारे कि अब हम ऑनलाइन पढ़ने को तैयार हैं. बट ये बात हकीकत है कि हम उसके पूरे स्पेक्ट्रम को एंजॉय नहीं कर पाएंगे just through online. So thank you so much, Bhavesh sir, for adding those points to the discussion. Let's now hear it from Dhaval Pat sir, Principal Shri LG Haria School, Jamnagar, Gujarat. Sir, over to you. You can unmute your audio.
Yes, good evening, one and all. Directly and indirectly, whoever has, all of us are associated with education, all the school trustees, school principals, parents, students, teachers, everyone. I welcome you all here. I would specially thank Vidya Gaur, who is the Chief Technology Officer, who invited me for this webinar, and also the team Blub World. The topic today is tech really learning? So, and sorry, tech is really teaching. I want to say that perhaps the best kept secret of this technology is kept with the teachers, and teaching remain the most important influence on the learning. It's I just consider it as it is just a tool, and this era right now where the technology is very, very important in today's world, But we should not forget that when the technology was not there, still the teaching and learning was going on, and it was very effective as well. So my opinion towards this is like technology is just a tool. The important factor is how you connect the students with you, whether it is through the teaching learning, whether it is with the blackboard, whether it is a face-to-face environment. See, millions of students now are going to head back to school very soon. If this pandemic is getting fast, we are get out of this very soon. Then all those shiny devices, apps, even the games, that all are going to become the part of the school day, and good for learning. As the education researchers focused on blended learning, I am often asked if the technology works. So my reply to that is yes, technology works in the teaching, but the most important part is how the teacher and the students are connected, and that is very important in today's world. Even if I say that if we compare, since in this lockdown period, as we all got an opportunity, and many of us got the opportunity to see the TV serial Ramayan. So you all have must seen that in that era also the teaching learning was going on, and in this era also the teaching learning is going on. So the only important factor is how you connect with the students and how it is, because see, technology will help you to make certain things easy, but it is not going to fulfill all the aspects. So I would like to even say that yes, you probably heard about the research based on the technology that is young or evidence is mixed, or perhaps you have read asking if whether this technology works or not in the teaching learning process. So I recognize how frustrating and unhelping these answers are to all the families and educators, that I have been noticing a trend that I think are quite stable and relevant to those of us working, providing effective learning experiences to all the students. Right? Generally, the evidence based on the technology supports existing evidence about in-person learning. In other words, teaching practices are the key effective instruction. In the absence of textbooks and blackboard, also the teaching learning can be possible. And in today's era, again, while sitting at home and we can teach, and the students can learn by sitting at home. So again, the same concept comes. Simply adding to technology, I would like to lastly say one thing, that learning environment doesn't guarantee better learning. In fact, using technology to replace teachers or the scale ineffective practice guarantees poorer learning outcomes. So when it comes to teaching and learning, it is not what you use, but it is always how you use it. So that's it for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dhavalji. To actually put your statement in one single line, we've been using something, an observation जो हमें इतने समय में मिला, that most of the ed tech that we are using is not solving education problems. Most of the ed tech we are using is solving communication problems. So the education problems still remain there to be solved, to be worked upon, to be thought upon. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective on Is Tech Really Teaching? Let's now hear it from the next guest, Mr. Samarjit Das Gupta, Principal, Podar International School, Havda, West Bengal. Sir, over to you. You can unmute your audio.
It's wonderful speaking at today's webinar, and it's a warm morning, warm evening. The rain's coming in. Now, as I would like to say that education and technology goes hand in hand, but technology can never replace physical teaching. Technology can supplement or complement a teacher's presence in the class, but it cannot ever replace a teacher. Now, as Mr. Bhalarao has just said that, well, we can think of an inverter which can run the fan, but cannot actually switch on the AC. So, online teaching can never replace classroom teaching, because for the simple reason, a teacher is over here in an online teaching, the teacher is teaching and the child is not only sitting and listening to what the lessons are going on, but probably there is an adult sitting with the child, and there is subconsciously a lot of judgment when otherwise in the class the teacher has those 35 minutes to go high and go low and mold the class, and the teacher is not conscious of somebody is watching me. But here in an online class, the teacher is always conscious that somebody is watching, and there actually it happens that the parents are consciously or unconsciously keeping a tab on what is going on. Some parents may be qualified to judge, some of them may not, and this results in a lot of misunderstanding. The second point, that technology should never go to a level where we become dependent on technology. Technology should be dependent on human beings. Education, as Mr. Dhaval had said, that technology was there earlier also, when we were not using technology so much. Education was being taught in classes. And today, when we have the whole education spectrum being ruled by technology, still I think the main point is what a teacher is able to teach. Now, in so-called affluent societies and in homes or schools where children can afford to have a good data connection, they can have proper online teaching. But is there any solution for the weaker sections of the society? How do they learn? Now in West Bengal, I've been seeing this lately, that recorded lessons, video lessons are being broadcasted on the news channels, on Doordarshan, or even on radio, on FM, which goes to a larger strata of the society, and it really helps. I think my time is up and I could communicate exactly what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samajit sir. And to summarize on what all you said, that teacher used to be the king of the class, and uska ek embodiment hamesha kaam aata tha to create the atmosphere that we wanted in the class. And education and tech will absolutely go hand in hand, but it won't replace a teacher. And right now, the whole classroom structure or the whole school has become typically transparent, because a parent is in every classroom. He's actually able to judge and comment on every small little thing that's happening. But we are not a structure that can handle transparency so easily. And typically, education is not meant to handle transparency. It's not a diplomatic institution. It's an institution which is supposed to deliver excellence and skills. And I think, shayad isi wajah se Indian mythology mein brahmacharya was a time that when you had to leave everything and actually go to a gurukul. So I think we have to go back to mythology now. If we call it history, the word mythology could offend a lot of people. So I'm just using it for the reference of it. Don't take it by its literal meaning. So again, tech should be dependent on humans. There's actually a new barometer that has come into play right now to test a skill or test the content that we are teaching. What we can understand right now is, if something can be done by tech, don't teach it. And if it cannot be done by tech, that's what you need to teach. Because right now we need to actually compare every human skill with technology. If technology can replace that skill, I don't think we should put a lot of effort on teaching that. You want to teach tech, that's good, but don't teach that skill, because that's redundant. Because anything that's redundant can be done by tech. If it's new, if it's creative, if it's different, tech cannot do it. So we need to actually think right now on what do we want to teach and what kind of teachers do we want. जैसे आज हम लोगों का एक सेशन है, we have been doing some sessions on a very quirky topic, which is the future teacher or the teacher's future. That how do you want a teacher to be? एक उसमें आपकी current reality है और एक आपका aspiration है. The future teacher is your aspiration and the teacher's future is your reality. अभी का स्टाफ, अभी का एचआर जो आपके पास आज रिसोर्स है, उसको रिटेन करना बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज हो गया है, और अगर आप रिटेन कर भी लें तो उसको अपग्रेड करना एक चैलेंज हो गया है. So how do you think this structure will change? So before this talk comes to an end, and before any talk comes to an end, I typically try to leave everybody with some food for thought, so that when we meet next, there's something more interesting to talk about. You want to say something, please? You can unmute yourself.
Actually, what I also wanted to say that in a class, the scenario is a dynamic scenario. You know, sometimes it happens that the teacher can make errors, can make mistakes, and the children obviously will not judge a teacher. The children will support the teacher, and the teacher, there are times when the teacher can correct himself or herself during those 35 minutes or even during a next session, which is actually not happening today in this online sessions, because it's not the child who's judging the teacher. These are adults who are judging, and even a small error can be showcased as a very big grave error, and then unnecessarily it can be very humiliating to the teacher as well as the child, because then the child gets to listen from the parent that, see, your teacher is like this, which is wrong.
Absolutely. We right now have to think on lines where we need to now upgrade the parent as well. कि अब आप जब पूरी टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ में you have complete interference and complete intrusion in the class, think of it from all the aspects. The way it happens in every market, that first you teach an investor to invest the money and then you teach him transparency. So that's the way it has to be right now, that since the parent is already in the class, let's teach him how to handle transparency, because that's again, there's a new need for it. So what we have realized after talking to so many people till now is that we need to isolate skills. That's one thing for sure. The skills that we could isolate, the first one is, well known, that's creativity, not in the sense of colors and paintings, creativity in the sense of actually the art of thinking, lateral thinking, perceptive analysis, observation skills, because this is something that tech won't have, and tech will never have these as far as we know it as of now. When we have machine learning and AI coming in, even then developing these skills or giving these skills to tech will also be a challenge. And second and most critical, which is going to come in the coming times, is actually giving the real word meaning of the word knowledge. Knowledge word comes from two words. The first one is know and the second is ledge. You put it together, you're knowing your ledge. So knowing where you are standing. So which is simply wisdom. कि आप अपने आसपास का परिवेश समझ के ये समझ सकें आपके लिए अच्छा क्या है और आपके लिए खराब क्या है. And this is what needs to be done right now, because वो wisdom अगर नहीं होगा तो जिन स्कूलों ने बच्चों को कोई भी स्क्रीन स्कूल में लाने से मना किया था, वो सब आज बच्चों को कह रहे हैं कि आपका स्कूल ही स्क्रीन में है. So stick to that. तो आपने उनके लिए पूरी दुनिया खोल दी. They are on the internet that you warned them of always. जिस टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए आप वार्न करते थे, आज वो उस इंटरनेट पे हैं और उसी वजह से आप उनसे कनेक्टेड हैं. You cannot police them, you cannot monitor them. So this is the time to teach them wisdom, that what's good for you and what's bad for you, ताकि वो self judgment हो, self motivation हो, and typically self designed learning ho. So let's think on these lines, and I hope that all of you try to build an activity and habit every day कि अभी जितना समय लॉकडाउन है, this is typically the world's biggest experiment going on in education. और पूरी दुनिया आपके ऑब्जर्वेशन या आपके कमेंट्स को टिपिकली शायद याद करेगी या ढूंढेगी कि उस समय लोग क्या कर रहे थे. सो ट्राई टू डॉक्यूमेंट और ट्राई टू राइट एन ऑब्जर्वेशन पेपर एवरी इवनिंग. भले ही 200-250 वर्ड्स का हो, लेकिन रोजाना लिखिए, बिकॉज what you can observe right now within your ecosystem, nobody else can, and that will typically become the base for innovation. क्योंकि आइडियाज हम भूल जाएंगे, बातें भूल जाएंगे, लेकिन वो कागज पेन नहीं भूलेगा. So what you think is happening right now, and we are trying to find the most innovative observation papers. If you're doing anything amazing, share it with us. Share those with many more schools. So this is the time that you should all experiment. अगर जिंदगी में कोई भी ऐसी चीज थी जो आपको लगता था कि ये ट्राई करना चाहिए स्कूल्स में या क्लासेस में, this is the time to do it, क्योंकि आपके पास पूरा एक्सपेरिमेंट लैब तैयार है. And try to observe what all happens with all your experiments. So I hope you enjoyed the last 20-30 minutes. If you did, and if you want to attend the future sessions with Blub World, you can open your audio, say a big yes, and thank you so much, people, for participating. It was very nice interacting with all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.